Hello, guys, and welcome to the Heritage Agendas Football Podcast. This is episode number 13. After
Yes,
the
sir.
2 week hiatus, it's good to be back. How we doing?
I'm doing well, bro. Good day. How are you?
I'm good, bro. Long day, but getting back into the swing of things.
Yes, sir.
I mean, your team is finally back in the competition that matters. I know that must have felt very,
Yes.
very good.
It was unbelievable, man. Oh my goodness.
Was this was Saka's like for the whole gang. It was like their first games, right? Like the young crew.
The Arsenal youngsters, pretty much everyone except I think Mark Odegaard has had a few appearances um in the Champions League, but everyone else besides Zinchenko
And
and
Jesus.
Jesus, it was their first game, yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, yeah, so that's really really that's nice, and we're gonna see how far they can go this year. Uh
Yeah.
Kind of we'll start with kind of a roundup of some of the games and kind of talk about our conclusions. We can just start with the Arsenal game now because we were on the topic. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm sure that was the game you kind of zeroed in on. What did you think? What did you think about the performance? 4-0, very impressive, clean sheet. Saka scored pretty quickly. Trossard, I think a goal and an assist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable day for everybody. I think um obviously yeah, and I don't want to like put them down, but I don't think they're up to the level of like an Arsenal side, especially at full strength. I think that's our probably our best team on paper, besides Martinelli, who's injured at the moment. But the PSV is having a good season. Like they haven't lost in the league. They've only conceded one goal, scored 13. But I think it was just it was a different class. I think they just were, you know, punching up their weight. And Arsenal was too good. And I think I don't know if they did that on purpose or something, but they were trying to go like attacking for attacking against a team like Arsenal, which not end well obviously for them. Obviously, it's a 4-0 game.
Hmm.
But what did you think?
And I think that which game was it? Was it Bournemouth at home where they slipped up? The draw this season?
Who Arsenal?
Yeah, Arsenal.
Yeah, I
It was
don't. It was
Bour
Bournemouth.
it was it Bournemouth
Uh,
or Forest? It was one of those. It was one of the. Let me look. It was Fulham. I'm sorry. It was Fulham. The 2-2
yeah,
draw at Fulham. I remember early in the season we were talking about Arsenal. They were getting wins. They were kind of grinding them out, but they didn't really look like they were like stuck in first gear. Like they weren't
yeah.
playing good football, but they were kind of like earing out these wins. And then they
Hmm.
had that draw at home, and then we were kind of sitting on here and we're like, Arteta just needs to go back. He doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. And I think that ever since the United game, they've looked 10 times better. Uh,
Yeah,
Going back to the formations that they know, no Partey right back. Uh,
exactly.
they've got this pivot now, and they're still using Havertz and Odegaard with Rice as that solo number six. And using Trossard was really really good today. Just kind of shows the quality they have in depth, and they were fantastic and good for them. And now you're gonna have a keeper controversy soon. Now it's Raya versus Ramsdale, which
Um, I don't think there's any competition. I don't even think it's particularly close. Even Raya's on a whole nother level. From the two games I've seen him, obviously I've watched him here or there when he was at Brentford, but it's not even like playing from the back, or it's not like it's just like more commandment or stuff like that. It's just his positioning is so advanced compared to Ramsdale, where Ramsdale would get himself in a lot of trouble just by being either he's up too fast and the ball just goes right by him, or he's a little bit too far to the left and stuff like that. Where Raya is like he's at the right place at the right time. He's playing every ball. I think he completed 12 deep passes today. So I don't think it's particularly close. Ramsdale should be familiar with this because he did this to Leno. Um, Obviously, as soon as he got dropped, you saw reports, oh, he's linked to Chelsea and Bayern and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it just comes with the territory. And he should know it. This is a big club. Somebody
Yeah.
like Raya he's not coming to be your backup. He's coming to take your
To
job.
take competition, which is
Exactly.
surprising because I thought that goalkeeper wasn't a big need, but to see them upgrade is pretty impressive. We'll kind of see if this starts to become a mess over the rest of the year. But I think you think that's his spot now. Like he's
Yeah,
for
I don't think it's I like Champions League and Premier League are just Raya's moving forward, and then cup games are probably going to be Ramsdale's because I like it's been 2 games, yeah, and he's kept 2 clean sheets, all that stuff. But if you watch, it's not close. Ramsdale is a little iffy, especially playing from the back. But Raya's here now. What can we do?
fair enough. That's very true. Uh,
Eh,
I mean, so for Arsenal, I think I said a quarterfinal for them. I would say in their first go around, I'd be pretty like if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be pretty happy with that.
yeah,
What I mean, you look at the teams. I don't think I had them in the teams that can win it, but you did. I believe you
I
did.
did. I did.
I
Yeah.
I I don't want to overreact to a win against PSV at home. With like
Yeah.
to be fair to them, I still think they're a year away.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's a great start to the campaign. And what would you be happy with? I think did you say semifinal?
I think if we avoid City, I think we can get as far as it takes us to see City. I don't think there's any team over 2 legs that can comfortably beat us. Obviously, game to game, it's you can't predict anything, but over 2 legs, I think we're just as good as anybody. And the only team I would say is better than us is City.
The city.
But I think you don't see what your league side until the semis, right? Um,
Quarters.
Quarters. So if we just avoid City, I think we can sneak into the semifinals, and then after that, it's just who knows.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to see how quickly Arsenal have like climbed up the ladder. Uh, and they have the squad for both, which is like to fair to them. They've recruited really well, and they finally have like quality depth in a lot of positions.
Yeah, and today, especially once the game was in control, like you saw Arteta subbing people off pretty quickly. Which just speaks to who like he has so many options. He can switch people around, so many versatile players who can play in multiple positions. It's just injuries, and that's it. I think that's the only thing that's gonna get in the way of like a successful long season in this competition and in the Prem. But I think they have what it takes. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll move on from Arsenal, uh, PSG. We talked about them as potentially a team that could win it.
Yeah.
Uh, they look very very good in their win against Dortmund. Uh, thoughts on them overall this season, their ability in this competition, and obviously if we talk about PSG, it's one guy, uh, and we know what his name
Exactly.
is. I'm not gonna say his name, but
Um
it's number 7 on the left. They
it
have
it
a great team now.
they do. They're a little bit they're not top heavy anymore. Obviously,
No,
they have arguably the best player in the world, but they're a little bit more well rounded. I think coming into this game, they took a bad loss in the league,
they did.
but
They
they
did.
took care of business. I think they're a level above Dortmund, and it seemed like that they played really well. Just a complete like a complete team win. Mbappe got his goal, and I think Hakimi scored the other.
Mm-hmm.
But
It was
they're
Hakimi. Yeah,
they're a really good team on paper. I think overall, I think they're better than their previous teams. I think up
hundred
until
percent.
up until way better. And then they have once Ousmane Dembele gets into form and starts performing, I think the potential is limitless. I think they could do a lot with their strikers and their wingers. They have a good midfield, good defense, obviously a great goalkeeper, but they have everything they need. And then they have the the best difference maker in
in
the
the
world.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So I mean, I look at their team, and last season they had question marks in a lot of places. They went and got Lucas Hernandez and Skriniar for the defense. In the
Yep.
midfield, uh, they kind of re-solidified. They bring in Ugarte, who's a true number six, something they haven't
Mhm.
had since, I mean, maybe the days when they first got Danilo Pereira. And then you go get two true number nines. You
Yep.
get Colomwani and you get Goncalo Ramos, who are two young, not proven, but they're very good number nines. And then you go get
Yeah.
a great right winger in Dembele who really complements the game of Mbappe. And not only that, now you have quality and depth. You have Barcola, you have Marco Asensio, Lee Kengan. So yeah, they have a deep team, and they're definitely one of the teams that can go and win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Asensio, who's been really performing for them while Usman Dembele rounds into form, but he's been doing exactly what he's been brought in to do, which is scoring,
You know,
assisting. He's looking like his old self before the injuries.
yeah, yeah. I penciled them down as a team that can win it, and no red flags. I still 100% think that they can.
And they're in a win. They're gonna win their group, I think, pretty convincingly. Obviously, it's the toughest group on paper, but I
It
think they're
is.
clearly above everybody else. Um, but yeah,
I mean, yeah. For them, the
what did
question
you what did
marks.
you what?
Hmm. Say
Sorry, go
say that
ahead.
again. What was your
Sorry.
question?
No, I was gonna ask about Newcastle, but what were you gonna ask?
That snooze fest. I mean,
No, Newcastle.
no,
Sorry.
the snooze fest
Oh,
against
the
AC
oh
Milan. I
the
mean,
snooze fest.
Newcastle
Oh,
played like a team that knew they were on the road in a tough place to play. They just kind of packed it in. It was
oh, they
all
are they are
AC.
they are cowards. Oh my goodness. They
You
just
can,
sat back for 95 minutes and just took a beating, but they got a point.
yeah. They have a
It
lot
was
of like Newcastle have a lot of funny moments in the fact of like you look at their squad and it looks like a team in transition. Like on
yeah,
one thing in their midfield you have like Guimarães and Tonali, and then you have Longstaff, or like
yeah,
they just have like they have funny, it's like almost funny, but they have great players. Uh, Obviously the league has gotten really hard, so they have to prove themselves and prove themselves fast and go deep if it's either in this competition or Europa, because I don't know. You think?
top four is not
I
coming
mean, I
by
don't know if they're
easily.
gonna be top four, but I think it's top five even because of the next year is the league with the coefficients, and the Premier League
Yeah.
will probably get one of those. So I mean, yeah, I agree
I
with you.
I
Go ahead.
Tonali was a no-show. Like he played 70 minutes, completed only 10 passes. Alexander Isak as well had zero shots. So it's like their big players didn't show up, but it doesn't help that they were, just,
I mean, the
just
plan was
playing
to just
deep.
play for the
Yeah,
draw,
exactly. And I and
which
I think I think that's what will continue to will hold them back, because Eddie Howe, I think he doesn't really like play one way, which has been, I remember last year, they were playing against Man United at a later end of the season, and you're like, oh, because they just recently lost to them in the cup final, and everybody's like, oh, it'll be the same way. They'll just sit back, and they played so well, like attacking,
they
and
can. Yeah.
they can do it, but he just chooses not to, and that's I just goes to show you, this is a they're backed by big money. If you don't take care of business, you're gone. So
You don't really have the. I don't know if they have the personnel to play maybe the way he wants to play yet. We'll see. Um, Obviously they spent a lot in the summer, but it was kind of concentrated. I thought that this summer with the prospect of the Champions League, they would bring in like 3, 4 like quality players, like the type that they
yeah.
maybe were unable to the year before. But I mean, it's in a way, at the end of the day, it's an away draw at San Siro, which is not easy. So
Yeah, I know, I it's a good result. I just think the way they played, I think, if you like, you're Newcastle, you have all this money, you have all these great players. Like it's the Champions League. You need to show out. You need to obviously you don't need to show out against freaking PSG and City and all that stuff and lose 6-0. But AC Milan, I think that's their level, and they didn't play up to that.
Yeah,
I
very
think we
fair.
both had we both had we both had Newcastle third.
I
Um,
think
did you?
so. I think either
Yeah, I
second
think
or
we both.
third.
Yeah, I had AC Milan second, but I think we both had Newcastle third, and you have to get a result against PSG at this point. I think Dortmund will go either way for AC Milan or Newcastle, but PSG is the that one you have to at least get a point to to solidify yourself as second to
100%.
advance into the knockouts.
And then moving on to the other game away in Italy, in Rome. This one was crazy. Lazio, Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid score with Barrios. And then minute 95, Provedel, the
Yeah,
keeper, with the glancing header at the near post. Uh,
I was not watching that game, but I saw all the tweets and I saw the goal. But I was like, I think he's the fourth goalie to ever score in a Champions League, which
he
is
is the
pretty.
fourth goalie, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Atletico. I think Atletico could have got a lot more, but a
The
90.
movement on that goal was crazy, by the way. Like that was a striker's movement, and then like they looked
Yeah.
it up, and then he was like striker, like as a youth player, which you could
Yeah.
100% see. Like some of those instincts, it's crazy to see. Like it just never goes away.
That's how I feel about Onana. I don't think Onana's a goalkeeper. He's just
He's a
just an
midfielder.
outfielder playing
Oh,
goalie.
don't worry, we'll talk a lot about his team.
Yeah.
Do not fear. But I cannot
Uh,
wait. Well, almost there. But
okay.
one other big game I wanted to talk about. Well, one other big team. I won't say big game. Barcelona
Yeah,
back to back 5-0 wins. Uh,
absolutely.
they look great.
They
Joao
do.
Felix 2 goals. Uh, Robert Lewandowski scoring again on the weekend. Cancelo scored. This is kind of going to bleed into both their play in the Champions League and in their league,
Hmm.
where they're second right now with no losses, 4 wins, and a draw.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Barcelona so far this season overall, and their expectations? You think from here on out?
I think whatever I'm about to say, I'd like to like put a disclaimer and say Antwerp were making their first UCL appearance, you
Very
know?
fair. That's very
So,
fair.
yeah. But I think in terms of attacking, João Felix and Cancelo have given them something they haven't had, especially Cancelo, because he's like an offensive beast. He creates
Is
chances, he gets assists, he gets goals.
yeah.
And they've been relying on Sergio Roberto and Ronald Araujo.
Yeah.
And they created they created 23 chances across all competitions last year, which is just awful.
Yeah.
And then you saw coming into the season, we talked about it a lot. They weren't playing attractive football that they're capable of because they're just being held back by just, they have right backs and the whole, at least right side is just
Yeah.
completely dead for long periods of times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's their attack is balanced now. And João Felix give them somebody to play off of, especially with Lewandowski, who's a true striker, where João Felix just can roam around and just have all the freedom he needs to do whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And he's proven, that's going to be the brand of football they play moving forward because he's been so productive, and especially in the last 2 games, the 2 games he's played. But what do you think of them moving forward? Do you think
They
this
have
will
qu-
stay?
they have question marks in certain positions. I think for how much money they spent. I think just 4 million in transfer fees this summer.
Yeah,
They got better for sure. Romeo, great. Cancelo
yeah,
gives them a true right back, something they have not had. They were running Kunde and what's Kunde, Roberto, and Araujo last season, like you said.
yeah,
They like I said, one of the things I always credit Barca for is they always they play kids from the academy. Now you get you see Lamal in the mix. Obviously, last season it was Balde. I'm sure it will not be the last. Uh,
yep.
and Joao Felix, I mean, they took a chance, and he's paying off right now. Uh, Obviously, this question marks can with Rafinha on the right. Obviously, the loss of Dembele was very very hard on them.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and but can they go and win it? Maybe. I think for them the expectations for me is also a quarterfinal. I think that their team caters more for a league, and with Barca, there's huge questions about Xavi. I think it all comes back at the end of the day to Xavi and the way he plays. And like you said, big asterisks on this. This is a 5-0 win at home, which is great, but it is
Yeah.
Antwerp. Uh, let's not get carried away. I still think I want to see them. Sadly, we're not going to see them really tested at all uh, in the group stage. I think that they kind of comfortably beat the teams in the group. I believe it's Porto, Antwerp, and I'm trying to think of the fourth team. Porto played today against Shakhtar. Shakhtar is the fourth.
Yep.
So I don't really think they're going to be challenged in the group phase. But I mean, Xavi said the expectation for them is the round of 16. I think that's what he said he'd be happy with, which is surprising for a club as big as Barca. But I think if they can get a quarterfinal, they're gonna challenge deep into the league for sure. They are a league team. They've always been a league team with Xavi and even before him with Ernesto Valverde. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
see.
No, I agree with you. I don't like Xavi putting like such a cap on their season,
Yeah,
especially the round of 16. I don't like that. But I think starting 11 wise, I think they're super talented. Obviously, Cancelo can be exploited. We've seen that, and that's a lot of reasons why he did not do well at Barca. I mean, Bayern and Man City. But well, he has spells where he's like literally the best at his position.
yeah.
And I think that's something they need.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very fair. Well, last game. Let's isolate this game into two. Well, we can talk about the game as a whole, but we're gonna talk about the
Yeah,
second team in this game for a while.
yeah,
Well, let's do one thing before we
uh,
talk about this game. Because this
yeah.
game is gonna kind of bleed into what we're gonna talk about after. Uh,
Hmm.
who's your is City still your winners, right? I believe the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, I think City repeat. Yeah.
Mm. I told you I said Bayern, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that doesn't change. If you had to pick a top scorer this season, who's is it just gonna be Holland?
I thought about it. I think it might have been a little bit too easy to say Holland again.
Yeah.
But I think the next two games, I think Harry Kane is about to put on a stat padding masterclass. But
He
I think
is.
Harry Kane wins top scorer.
Okay, we agree. That's mine. And then your
Yeah.
dark horse. Who's your dark horse?
To win
Just to
to
to, to
win,
cause problems.
I think it'll be Barca for me. Obviously, Xavi thinks they'll just get to the quarters, but I have more faith in his team than he does. But I think Barca is because I think offense, like just going forward, they're Lewandowski, João Felix, like they have such offensive power that they can beat anybody. But also can be said the other way. But
They
they
can
were
lose
so
to
good
anyone,
last year
yeah.
defensively. So I'm gonna trust that their defense holds up and keeps the pace that they were on last year. But Barca is my dark horse to actually like go a little bit further than what they expect.
This is
People and themselves.
I also have a Spanish team. I think and mine is Atletico Madrid. Uh,
Okay.
I think they got better across the board. They have a lot of great depth, even though they had a draw, in Rome. Griezmann has come back into form. They can bring on a bunch of names from the bench. Obviously, Angel Correa. They have Aspilicueta now, Javi Galan for the left back, Samuel Lino, who they brought back on loan from Valencia. There's just one team that you never want to face in a two-leg tie, and
Yeah.
that's Simeone's team. They play defensive. They scrape out games. They are hard to break down. They never give up on in terms of fighting. You know what you're gonna get from them. It's predictable. You know how they're going to play,
Mm-hmm.
but they're very very hard to break down. And I just think that they're such a great team for a competition like with two legs. So for them, I can 100% see them beating one of the big teams. They have the squad to do it again.
Yeah, I think they are always good for a clean sheet, which is something you need in those
Yeah.
two leg ties. Obviously now there's no away
Away
goal
goals
advantage.
hurts them. Yeah.
So it doesn't you just have to 1-0 is their bread and butter. And if
Yep.
you lose 1-0 to them, you are cooked. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're comfortable in that way, playing that way. It's this, like, especially under the Simeone reign,
Yeah.
it's worked. And obviously they've won La Liga, all that stuff, but and they've gotten really far in the Champions League several times, got
Yeah.
into a
Two
final, even
finals. If it wasn't
two
for
finals.
Cristiano Ronaldo, we'd have very very
Yeah,
different
so they
conversations about them.
exactly.
All right. Well, fantastic. Last game is Bayern Munich versus Manchester United.
Yeah.
Let's start on the Bayern side. What did you see from them? I mean, their team, their squad is nuts this season.
Oh my goodness. Musiala, right? Musiala's his name.
Jamal Musiala, yeah.
He was unbelievable. Completely just running the show for 90 minutes. But I think what what I what I saw was just I like Man United is not up to par.
Hmm.
It was a little bit too easy at times. It was just one-sided, one way for long periods of time. Um, but we've gone into this several times over this season. The just Bayern, like, they looked like grown men compared to Man
They
United,
look
especially
fantastic.
physically. They
Yeah.
were just completely outmatched, outweighed everything. And I don't think they went up 3-1, I think, at the 55th minute mark, and then just completely just shut everything down. Obviously, you don't want to see that, but I think it was warranted because Man United were not a threat. For the three goals they scored were just, that won't happen again. But it's just they're not up to par with the big teams
With the big
of Europe,
teams.
especially.
I mean, they're my winners. Once Neuer comes back, which probably a couple months away, I just look
Yeah.
at their depth position wise, and now you even bring in like Lamer who can play. Who they used him today on the right side, uh, and then you just look at their depth. Coman, Muller, like Thomas Muller came off the bench today. Nabry, Sane, obviously you get it. They have a true number nine in Kane, who's being used to the full extent of his abilities. He's just dropping
Yep.
deep. He's playing these wingers in. Obviously, he has the full range of passing. On top of how good and clinical he is as a finisher in the box. Musiala today showed, he was miles better than the number 10 on the other side, Bruno Fernandes. And just Kimmich, Goretzka, their health is obviously going to be a problem potentially, but if they can stay healthy, that's more than capable as a double pivot to really
Mm-hmm.
challenge in this competition. They got better at every single position that they struggled at last year. The fullbacks, and the center backs and striker, and they have arguably the best striker in the world. They have two very very capable right backs in Lamer and obviously Mazraoui developing more.
Mm-hmm.
And center back, they have options now. Upamecano is not playing well. Delict.
Delete
Delict's
comes
not
in. Yeah.
playing well. Upamecano, Kim Min Jae on the left. True left-sided center back. So yeah, I mean this is my winning. This is my winners. They are going to be hard to play against. They're going to be well rested every week because obviously they're not always the most challenged from their league.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a crazy crazy team.
The Sane and Gnabry. Oh my, they're they're incredible, especially with Harry Kane, as you said. It just opens so many things up with so much space, at both
Yep.
sides. It's
Yep.
it's tough to defend, and Man United saw that firsthand today. It's just, but let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
You saw your boy Casemiro scored two goals today. Were you able to celebrate those goals?
I mean, they're consolations. They're good for him. They were good. They were funny goals. But I mean, let's
Yeah,
let's let's
the first one was hilarious when he fell to the ground.
and
It was
then like hit it. I think it like broke XG. Yeah, they were talking about how like it didn't even have it couldn't even be like recorded with XG or something.
oh my, he stepped on the ball, fell, and then it just rolled right. Oh my goodness.
I
But
mean, let's talk about United. And I have a
Yeah.
feeling we're going to be here for a while. Last episode, we had our talks about Ten Hag, and we disagreed. It's like one of our first disagreements. On
Yeah.
like, I thought that Sancho was very justified in what he was saying. You thought that, to stick with Ten Hag was important.
Mm-hmm.
It's another loss, and they had one on the weekend too against Brighton, and that one was way uglier than this. The one thing I will say is they played way better today, at least for stretches.
Yeah.
Uh, where do they even start? Where do they even start in terms of improvement? And it's just another season, and it just feels like we have the same problems with United again.
The Brighton game, they played really well the first 20 minutes, and
Hmm.
then everything just fell to the
Oh,
ground. Just completely. And then today they were good for stretches, but their margins for error is so small where if they don't capitalize on anything they do, it's gonna cost them because one, it seems me and you both think Onana's a capable keeper, but it seems like he can't save anything.
hmm.
Today there was clear mistakes. Like the first goal was on him. He
Was
just
very poor.
literally,
Yes.
yeah. And then against Brighton, some of the shots obviously defense is a problem, and they're conceding a lot of the same goals where like the midfield is not back on time and somebody's just getting a cut back and shooting a wide open shot at Onana. And that's hard to stop, but like I feel like he has to be accounted for. Like he needs to be making some sort of effort. I think every shot is going in at like a 90% rate. Anything that's on target, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like
Um,
that's very true.
yeah, and obviously we can talk about Ten Hag if you'd like, but what is on the field is not working. Bruno Fernandes is a great player one game, and then he looks like the worst player on the
He's
pitch the next
inconsistent.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Rashford, same thing. Obviously, Rasmus scored today, but like it was just like a consolation goal.
But
It's
he's a
not
kid,
something
you
that
know?
matters. He's a kid, but he's
Exactly.
being depended on to
Like,
to
which is
to,
what we
to
said
be
for
the
Keith.
leader. Yeah, to be the leader of this attack, to lead this attack. Um, and Rashford this season is off. He's not off to a good start. He has one goal this whole season. It's been 6 games. I don't think he's gonna hit that, as you like to say, that purple patch where he had 30 goals and like 12 assists last season.
Yep.
Um, and then all of that. Obviously we disagree on just like the off-field issues, but on fields we agree. Like Ten Hag is not doing a good job. Um, Tactically, it's way off. You don't know how they're gonna play. Their midfield is inconsistent. I don't know if he can change the way Bruno plays, but he's just like his attitude. He doesn't defend, especially Rashford. There's periods of time against Brighton where Rashford is just literally just struttering around, like just walking back and forth, not engaging in anything defensively. He's not crossing the halfway pitch line where Brighton are just going right by him sometimes. So I don't want to say I don't want to say it's Ten Hag out time, but it's not
It
looking
feels like
good.
it's getting there. I mean,
It,
again, it's
go
just
ahead.
they spent so much money in the summer, and they still have. It's like it's crazy, and this is the problem with United. Some of these weaknesses, it feels like they've had for like 6 years, 5, 6 years. They still don't have a bona fide right winger. They went and spent 100 million on Anthony. He's been okay. They spent 70 million on Sancho. He's been okay. Rashford still has question marks. How many years now we've been talking about Marcus Rashford? Uh,
Too long.
Martial, to be fair to him, played very well today. He's still depended on for goals year in and year out. This is year number 10 for Anthony Martial, which is crazy to think. Garnacho's been very,
Mm-hmm.
very good, fair to him. They don't have, I mean, like, their signings this summer didn't make any, some of them didn't make any sense. Obviously, they maybe they miss Mason Mount so they can play the way they want to play. But even when Mount was signed, we're like, that doesn't really make any sense. With Bruno Fernandes, it doesn't really match. He's not a number 8. Um, Fullback, they're very weak. I mean, Reguilon and Dalot is just not good enough to, like, just let's put it and say it that way. It's not good enough. How does Brighton have Estupinian and Lamptey for left back, and you have Sergio Reguilon and Luke Shaw. And you're Manchester United. I mean, these players are just not, they're not good enough anymore. They have a lot of question marks. The football doesn't seem like it's ever getting better. I feel like it's always getting worse. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
season, and they're mentally, they're so weak. They are so weak. Like you said, they had a good 20 minutes. The first goal goes in for Brighton, and it just off. Like it's like there's no intensity. There's no. I mean, how many games has Ten Hag since he joined? Obviously, like I said, shielded by that 12 or 13 games in a row where they won last year, and then they had the cup, the League Cup, which is already like okay, like it's okay. It's you're Manchester United,
Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do at the end of the day. Um, Now, I mean, how many games has Ten Hag had? We slapped by City, slapped by Liverpool, loses to Brighton multiple times. This is not the first time they've lost twice, or maybe even three times. Did they lose home and away last season? I think.
they did. Yeah, they
Yep,
did last year.
home,
Yeah.
home and away. I mean, we could probably go team by team and see that they have had good moments. Obviously, they had the win against City. They had the win against you guys last year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it
But
seems
that's
like
that. But that's where it stops, though. That's
it
you
is.
see it for a game or two,
Yeah. There's no
especially
consistency, 100%.
yeah. And then the trophy, I that is a good thing. Obviously, winning a trophy every time, but they didn't play anybody. They
No.
got to the FA Cup final, and City handled them in within the first 10 minutes of the game.
Yep.
And then they concede a goal, and then morale is down. That just goes up to that. You can go to Bruno Fernandez, who's just head down, pouting the rest of the way
That's your
because he's just
captain.
and there's I feel like on the field there's no accountability because Bruno Mars just Bruno Mars, excuse me.
It's been one of those weeks, bro. I don't blame you.
It's been
Bruno Fernandez.
Bruno Fernandez is just gets to just run amok, do whatever he wants on the pitch.
Bruno
And
Mars.
there's he's not held he's not held responsible for what he does on the pitch. He starts every week. Obviously, they don't have anyone as good, but the as good as him happens every other game. Is that something you want? And he's 28 years old. He's not somebody that's going to be around for another 5-6 years. So it's just the squad is aging pretty quickly, especially the bigger players. What's his name? Martial, you said, has been here for 10 years.
Casemiro's getting older. Yep.
Casemiro's older. And then Bruno's 28 years old. And there's no like one thing I've seen with Man United is just the lack of like obviously they had Greenwood and that went left, but like the lack of like academy players coming through. It's just there's there's what who do they have now? Palistri and
I mean, Pellistri they bought and Hannibal.
like they have young players that like, but they don't have anybody that's breaking into the team and making a difference like Arsenal
Garnacho,
have.
to be
Or
fair.
they're not what Garnacho, but
Garnacho, to be fair.
I don't think he's up to. He's not a
He's
week
not, but he's
out starter.
18. Give him some time.
He's
He's a good
18,
player, to be
but
fair to him. He is a very good player.
having one of those players is not good enough. I don't think having one Garnacho is not. That's
It's
not going
not.
to
It's
maintain
not.
or sustain anything, especially when you're spending so much. So if you're buying a player, he costs 80 million, and that doesn't work out. He's just there for the next 5 years, collecting whatever money you pay him. So it's I don't know. I don't know how
It's
Man
the
United
recruitment
fans
that
do it.
doesn't make any sense, man. Because like the fair thing to Arsenal is like obviously Arsenal had a couple really down years, but then you saw them
Yeah,
slowly buying player here fits into a system, player here fits in the system. Maybe they bring, like you said, couple kids from the academy. They obviously were lucky into bringing a couple players who
yeah.
like all came up at the same time. But I mean, you just look at United. How many Rashford? Huge question marks again, and Rashford moves like he's a top five player in the world. He's not.
Oh,
He
that fucks with me so bad. The way he's just above everybody else on the pitch. He does absolutely nothing. It's just
and it's excuse
I
every
don't like
game.
that
It's
guy, man.
excuse after excuse. He's not playing in his preferred position. Great, you go get a proper number nine. He has almost no defensive responsibilities. That's fine. We never really talk about it, but that's fine. It's just excuse after excuse after excuse, and the time for excuses for United is over. I mean, this is gonna be another coach that maybe they're gonna go through. They obviously we need to see Amrabat. We're still waiting to see maybe he's the double pivot that United have needed with Bruno Fernandes. But I mean, I don't think they're one player away. I think they're four players away. So there's no the word I'll use is creativity. There's no creativity in recruitment, and it's
Hmm.
very evident. It's the same bland players, the same team, the same issues. Defense, defense, defense. How many hundreds of millions have they poured into defense? Like even by luck, you should have got something right by now. Like just by pure luck, just by throwing, kind of almost throwing darts at a board. Like surely one of them should have stuck by now. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're dealing
I,
with injuries there, but I mean, fullback has been a need for how many years? All they brought in was Malasia, who's someone Ten Hag has experience with in the Dutch league, which is becoming like a meme now. That every player he wants to bring in, he has he has played with. But yeah, I don't know.
they're very there's no like they're very reactionary when it comes to the transfer
Yes, yes,
market.
yes.
There's no long-term outlook on things where you're building 2 3 years out. It's basically, oh, we conceded 7 goals in the first 2 games of the season. Let's go get Casemiro. Like it's very much like that. Obviously,
Yep, yep,
Casemiro is a
yep,
good player,
yep.
but you have to think like something you have to be able to sustain especially the way you're spending money. You can't spend 400 million pounds in 2 seasons and then have nothing to show for within 3 years. It's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, I mean, we'll see. The Ten Hag people are starting to become split. Before it was a very like, oh, but and the thing that makes me upset is like after every loss, it's always the Glazers, Morto. I think his name is the club president. I don't think it's
Yeah.
their fault, to be fair, this time. Like you can blame them for the infrastructure and the issues with Old Trafford and the training facilities and how they're falling behind in that realm. But they have given the board, I mean, they have given the coaches the players that they've wanted for a very, very long time. Like Pogba, obviously, Casemiro when he was in, Anthony, Onana this summer. They've spent a lot of money. So the excuses are it's always the same loop. Owners, players, coach. Owners, players, coach. We're going down the line. Soon it'll be the players, and then it'll be the coach, and then they'll restart, and then they'll do the same stuff.
You think there's any possibility Ten Hag is gone before this year's over?
No, no chance. Too
I
much.
don't.
No chance.
I don't think so either. It's
No
gonna
chance.
be. I don't know. You either have to just trust him, where you just give him 4 years, and then if it doesn't work out, then you reset with like somebody young and just. But this whole giving managers 2 years and then just sacking them, which they've been doing the last 4 managers they've had, has been
Mm-hmm.
2 years, 2.5 years at most, and then they're gone. Um, they should have kept what's his name, Ragnick. That's the guy that
As
had
the
a vision.
recruiter, I know,
Yeah,
man, but I mean, to be fair, they blamed the owners for him for leaving, but the first thing Ten Hag said when he got there is like, I don't want to deal with this guy telling me who I have to buy and who I don't have to buy. Like, get him out of here. Like that's the way I saw it, at least. Then he went and
yeah.
took.
Like Ten Hag was coming in with like a lot of pedigree, at least for what he's done, especially coming in from like he had two, like what 3 year was it 2 years before where they beat Madrid and stuff like that, got to the semifinals, all that, and you want to come in and run the show yourself. Obviously, it has not been successful. It hasn't led him anywhere, and now his job is in question. But I don't think it's in question. The fans can't do anything else besides say 10 Hag out or 4 Hag out or 7 Hag out. Whatever they.
Ten Hag, man. Crazy.
uh,
I mean, all he's wanted to do is bring in people from that team that went to the semifinal. De Jong, they've been rumored with Delict. Uh,
I remember when like how they do the whole like when Arteta was hired, he was given like a tour of like the facility and stuff like that, right?
yeah.
And Arteta was like asking for, is this here? Where do you guys have this? Where are the drones? All this stuff, like he was just asking for a guy that like knows exactly what he wants. I would have loved to see Ten Hag's tour of the facility when he got to, what is it
I
called,
need to
Carrington?
I need to see their facility, bro, because it must be horrid for like Ronaldo speaking out about it. I mean, you just look at the stadium. Like, there's issues in terms of I will say the infrastructure and the concerns with that are 1,000,000% valid. But
Yeah.
to talk smack about the spending in the transfer market is just it's out of line to me, bro. There are teams that would kill to spend how much they spend.
Yeah. The only team that competes with them in spending are just City and Chelsea, I feel like. So it's just,
Mm.
so Chelsea's in the gutter as well, but like
Yeah.
City's so it doesn't, Man United.
Arsenal's gotten like pretty good spending recently too, which is like
I think they've earned that though. It's not
they earned their spending when they
obviously
started.
they
When they first started spending.
what was Arteta spending?
He was spending like
What was
300. He
Arteta
spent 300 mil like 2 summers ago.
2 summers ago?
Which year was it they spent 300 mil?
There was never a summer they spent 300
They were a
million.
year they were number one in the world in spending. That's all I remember. Which
Yeah,
year
with
was
like
this?
120 million. That was when they got Ben White, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, all of them. But all those players, it doesn't even matter if let's say they did spend 300 million. That 300 million was worth it, you know?
It was,
Like
it was, but he got
but
backed before he
but I
really
it was
pushed.
no. I think he's spent as much as Ten Hag has in 2 seasons than Arteta has in 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But that took, bro. I remember there was Unai was like, they told Unai like, you have 30 million to spend. Like that was a
Arsenal used
thing
to
at
never
Arsenal.
spend. I remember when they got
Exactly.
Ozil, for example. That was like wow. Like Arsenal just broke the bank. They spent like
Yeah,
40 mil.
but once you're on a upward trajectory and you can convince
But now
owners
they
that
can
this
spend
money will come back,
100%.
yeah, that you can spend whatever you
Well,
want.
it's going
But
to. They don't need to spend
but
that much
but Ten
anymore.
Hag is getting all this money with nothing to show for, So
I think it'll get worse before it gets better. But I mean,
I think Casemiro gets bought out by like middle of next year.
bro, they're putting him out to dry. He's not a well, I'm trying to think of the type of. He's not a collect the ball and spray passes all over the field type of midfielder. Like they put these players into like roles where I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, bro, do you know who your personnel is? Like Casemiro is the type of player you put as he's like, no, I don't want to say destroyer to be like he's not like, he's not like
a headhunter.
Yeah, he's a pure six. Like he's the best at, like, you just see him in a 3-man midfield as like a single pivot. You not play balls to him and then expect him to spray passes. Like you need to have creative players around him. He is not, he is not that. That was always his problem at Madrid. He was never good with the ball, but I mean, obviously that was really not important when you have Kroos and Modric next to you. But he was the best defensive DM in the world, like by and large.
He was, but now you have Bruno, who's just who is so careless with the ball.
Eriksen and Bruno are no Kroos and Modric, I'll tell you that.
Exactly, and that just that exploits everything Casemiro can't do, and
that's very true.
So.
But let's kind of pivot from the Champions League to the Premier League. There's only really one team I want to talk about here, and that's Chelsea, whose only win this season was against arguably the worst team. Well, maybe we'll see. Obviously, by the end of the season, but the worst team in the history of the Premier League, Luton, who are
let the record show that you predicted they would win that game, which was Chelsea saying Chelsea will win a game is like a big thing now,
And I said the score too. I said 3-0. They're gonna dominate. It's just every single season, it's the same thing with them. They were coached to a win. They don't find a way. I look at their team. It's not bad. It's really not bad. Like I don't know. It's just like now it's just really starting to hurt my head. Like I have no idea what they should even do.
I saw like their lineup. The lineup was recognizable. I knew everybody on the pitch that would start. But then I saw their bench. And I swear to you, I couldn't recognize
all
one name.
Kids.
All children. And it was
after Cole Palmer.
The Man City striker is the only person I saw. I was like, what the hell?
But
it just I like obviously they drew. They played like ass, but they got a point, which is better than what they did the week before. And it's
Yes.
such a low standard. But I think like that's how they have to keep building, you know? Get
Yeah.
like a small win here. Okay, we got a point here. Let's go for 3 next week, you know? Oh, we got another like stuff like that. They're not on
They're far, man.
the
They're
way they're
just
moving is
far.
so slow.
Yeah, I mean,
They're just
I said they were third. I loved what they did with their squad. They were deep, but I mean, time's cooking now. I mean, let's see this next couple of games. Home versus Villa. They have to. This is a like this weekend is a must win.
they're
Away.
getting cooked.
Emery
They're
is gonna
not
cook.
winning.
We'll see. Away to Fulham, then away to Burnley, both winnable. Home versus Arsenal, they're gonna lose. Brentford, and then it gets tough. Look at these 5 games in a row. At Tottenham,
Mm-hmm.
Man City, at Newcastle, home Brighton, and then United whatever for now. But those four at least, I'm sorry, Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton. Those could be 4 losses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't know what I was gonna say. I think I all I know is Unai Emery has not forgotten the Europa League final. So he has something for them
Yeah.
this coming Sunday. But like I don't know what more. Like you've spent $1 billion, you have to look better. Like I was looking at the table, and they're sitting right at like 14th, 15th, and everybody else below them is all red, which is Sheffield United, Everton, Wolverhampton,
Luton.
and
Yep.
Luton, and all those teams, and they are just the same. They're like just they look like they are
And
where
they're
they
sitting next
belong.
to United, to be fair.
you
I
you
love this season, man.
any chance you get, you gotta just
I'm gonna eat this
you know.
season. I mean, I
Oh,
had Chelsea third, which is the crazy thing to me is like
yeah,
you look at their squad on paper. Obviously, football is not played on paper, but you look at their squad and you're like, they did so many things right. Like, there's a lot of things that like they did right. Obviously, they spent crazy money on Caicedo. They brought in a striker that I think was serviceable, Nick Jackson. Maybe they just have they have similar problems to United where they just don't have good leaders. But they had Thiago Silva in that locker room. Like, you just look at their team and they're like wow, like this team is not bad. Like, they should not be doing this week in, week out every single week. It's like we've been talking of the same thing for this is like 18 months. This is historic incompetence for Chelsea. They have like 3 league wins in the last like 27 or 28 games. Like, that is like, let's say it the way it is. That is relegation form. Like, if they keep playing
absolutely.
the way they play, and once they get to that stretch of 6 or 7 games, bro, we could be talking about them going down.
Speaking of leadership, Thiago Silva was on Twitter, you know, complaining that he
The
wasn't playing
Champions
in the
League, I
Champions
know.
League, you know. That doesn't look good for youngsters, you
I
know.
mean, I saw the
So
funny thing in the quote tweet that was like next season, and it was like him, and it said Premier League, and it was this. Which I mean,
uh
bro, if they keep playing the way they're playing, then I mean, man, we'll see. That this is rough. This is new. These are new lows for Chelsea. But overall, let's say you had to pick a top 4 right now. You can give it to
yeah,
me in order in no particular order. You've seen all the teams now, 5 games. Give me your top
yeah.
four.
I think it's pretty simple. I think it's Man City 1, Arsenal 2, Liverpool 3, and Tottenham 4th in terms of just everyone playing how they're playing.
Yep.
Um, that's pretty much that's the easiest top 4 right now. It's clear cut right now. They're above everybody else. Those 4 teams, especially how they're playing, the way they have spent their money this summer. Especially Tottenham, they have a few other players that from the last year's spending spree that are playing relatively well. But Liverpool are really good, Arsenal are really good, and City's the best in the country. So, what about you?
I think City, Arsenal, Liverpool. This last one is so tough. It's between Brighton and Tottenham for me.
Brighton,
I
I think
want
get
Brighton to get Champions League so bad. Well, maybe it won't matter where both of these teams will be top five and they'll both make it. But I want they deserve
yeah.
they deserve. It's just gonna be hard for me to see how they fare when Europa starts and they're really asked to rotate. But they did a good job this weekend. They had no Estupinian and no Evan Ferguson starting, and they slapped United.
They I think the if you added how much money the starting 11 cost, it was like 20 million, less than that, I believe.
That's
So it
crazy,
was
man.
like De Zerbi like has proven he can coach anybody, but I
He's
think
great. He's my
over
favorite
like a
coach right
38
now.
game, yeah, over a 38 game period with Europa League, with the FA Cup, all that stuff, I don't think they have the depth to compete with at least Tottenham for that top four spot. They like Evan Ferguson is like the most like tantalizing prospect in the Premier League probably, and he doesn't play week in week out. He's just you never know when he's gonna play, and it's just
And this week they look at this who they bring off the bench: Milner, Pedro, Gilmore, Ferguson, Fati. Like that's really good quality off the bench.
you just said Milner, bro. Come on.
Man, he gives you experience, bro. He can play at four different positions. He's not bad if he gives you 10, 15 minutes a game.
I get that. Fati, yes. Gilmore has moments like he'll play a good pass every 3 games, and then
Joao
that's what.
Pedro is not bad.
But Tottenham's Tottenham is just I don't know.
They
Richarlison scored,
are
bro.
crazy.
Richarlison, I'm believing in Ange Ball, bro. Richarlison got a goal this year.
Bro, they
That's
are nuts. They are very good.
they're
Madison,
incredible.
Son, Kulusevski, Richarlison. They're playing that
They
four
lost
back.
they lost Perisic for the season.
Yeah, I know.
He tore his ACL. That's gonna be a big loss,
But
but
Brennan Johnson, and they did went and they got Brennan Johnson, who they've been pushing for a long
for a
time.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw this ad. I don't know if you saw it. It's like some for Australian TV or something like that. And they were like, if you're not a fan of Tottenham, it's okay. Like be a fan of Ange Ball. I was like, yes, I am too.
He seems like he's a great guy to coach for. I was
Yeah,
seeing some of his
he's
answers in the media and
he
it seems
seems
like
like
his
a
players want to die for him.
exactly. And like you need managers like that. You need somebody that's gonna change the culture, especially coming off of Conte and Mourinho. You know, those managers are legendary managers, but they deteriorate clubs. They slowly kill
Yes,
them, you know?
very quickly.
So he's opened everybody. He's opened everyone's eyes. Like they believe.
They
So,
do. They really
but
do.
it's not going to get them anywhere this weekend because Arsenal will smack them. But we'll
That's the
see.
North London Derby, man. But we'll end with the segment we call 352. We put
Yeah.
5 minutes on the clock, three predictions each, two people in the studio, obviously.
Yes, sir.
So, how about you give me your first one for it can be anything UCL related, Premier League related, rest of season. We like to keep these pretty open.
We haven't. Surprisingly, we didn't talk about Madrid today.
I know we did not.
Obviously they had a really exciting game. If you want to just touch up on it,
Yeah, let's touch up on it really quick, and then
yeah,
we'll go 352. I mean, it was
yeah.
a good
What did you
win.
see?
It was
Yeah,
another game where they didn't play well, or I think they could have played better, and they found a way. They got the points. Good teams do that, but obviously you cannot play the way you played today against Arsenal, Man City, Bayern, one of those teams. You will get slapped. It was him again. It was Jude. 6 goals this season. Absolutely
yeah.
insane.
He's unbelievable.
They needed Kane this
Your whole
summer,
midfield is
man.
unbelievable.
They unreal midfield. They just missed one guy, which is crazy to think that. Like obviously they would still need reinforcements at right back, for example, but
Yeah,
Kane was the last piece. It was just if they had Kane. To be fair, Jose played well today, but they just need that. That just need that final person in the attack to take him over the line.
yeah. He scored last weekend as well, Joseo, but he's been playing well for
He hit the
somebody that
post, yeah.
everyone in the club hates, or at least the outside fans. But I don't like Vinicius is injured. That's another
He's
thing. I
back.
think
He's
he'll be
back
back.
next week.
He'll
Yeah.
be back next week. It's a hamstring injury, so I don't think they'll rush him back. It
No.
slowly, yeah.
And Arda Güler
Um,
comes back, which is nice.
which is at least depth is slowly coming. But I remember last year, I think me and you had Tottenham pretty high. I think we had them in the top four last year.
Yeah, we did.
And earlier in the season, they started like they were. I remember that draw against Chelsea where they were down 2-1, and we were like, "Oh, yeah, they're a good team, but they're a good team, but they're starting slow, but they're getting points. They're winning games from the back, all that stuff." I think this is what I'm seeing with Real Madrid because they're winning, but the way they're winning is I know I've said this for the fifth
Unsustainable.
time
I'll
this
be the
season.
first one to
It's
say it.
yeah, it's
Unsustainable.
very unsustainable. And when that comes to an end, when a goal drought happened, when Jude like hopefully doesn't happen, if like something like he's injured for a week or two, it's just like goals will dry up. That
You
happens
cannot
throughout the
ask Jude
season.
Bellingham to get you a goal
Um,
a game. I agree with what you're saying 100%.
yeah, and so when that happens, it's spooky. It'll be dark, and I don't think there's any way you see something like that. Well, if something like that happens, I don't think there's a light at the end of that tunnel because it's just is over then. If
I
anything
think
happens to Jude, is over.
their midfield is just too good to let that happen. Like they have so many guys. They're six deep in midfield. There's even seven deep with Bellingham if you count him there. I
Yeah,
think that there will be times at this season where there's long stretches of lack of form. But if there's any team in the world who can just turn up for one game, it's Real Madrid. They always find a way for those big games. They live for them. It's like embedded in the culture of the club. Uh,
yeah.
I'd be really happy with a semifinal this season for us in the Champions League. Do I think it's gonna
Is that it?
happen? It
Yeah.
depends who they play. To be honest, I'm really excited to see the Napoli game, especially the away one. That's a pretty
Yep.
good
That'll be a big
benchmark
test.
club. Yeah, that will be a big test. And this weekend we have a derby against Atletico
Atletico
Madrid, which
Madrid.
is not easy. It's not an easy place to play.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean they've been
And
tested, but
and then to get back to what we were doing, the 3-5-2, I think the goals dry up, the 1-0s dry up, the
mm,
2-1s dry up. I will. Atletico takes care of business.
they win.
1-0, they win. Yeah.
Okay, I have us tying. That's my second one, so I'll move mine around. So
Okay.
my second one is a draw. I think it's 1-1, but you have us losing. Hmm.
Uh, I, I I think this will be depending on how this goes. This will probably be my final Real Madrid prediction. Anything because I've been wrong every time
You
I've said they were going to
predicted
do
us to
something.
lose like four times, man. Like literally for every week I'm like, bro, this guy, like he does not stop.
The agenda does not rest,
I
bro. But
know.
Jude might have buried me, man. I don't.
He's so good.
He can't
He
keep
just
getting
finds
away
a
with
way.
this.
He's very inevitable, but
Yeah.
that's okay. So that's our first ones. What's your second?
My second is the North London derby. I think Arsenal comfortably win. I think Tottenham have come out and looked like a great team. But I think Arsenal are on another tier. I think they're a tier above them. They're a top four team to me, Tottenham right now. But Arsenal's a league contender. They're fighting for a league title. So I think they need to take care of business. And I think they will, especially coming off today's win, where they looked so dominant, where everything was free flowing. I think everything was just perfectly scripted. Um, so I think they take care of business. I'm taking a 3-1 um scoreline.
Mm. Uh, all right. I'm gonna talk UCL here. Next week,
Okay.
there's no UCL, but the week after, the game that probably I will zero in on the most outside of Real Madrid at Napoli
Yeah.
is gonna be Manchester United Galatasaray. That game
Oof.
is huge for United, and I don't think that
Yeah.
they're gonna win. I think they're gonna draw at home to Galatasaray, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm starting to think that I don't know if they make it out of this group
I think Galatasaray got away with one today.
against
I think they
Copenhagen, who
drew.
are good too.
Yeah, they were good.
Who
Yeah,
are good
they were
too.
down 2-0 and they tied it up with like the 90th minute
Bro, their
mark.
front
So
four is insane, man. It's Icardi, Ziyech, Zaha, and who was at their number 10 too? They had a very very good number 10 today. Who was their number 10? It was Mertens. That's a
yeah,
crazy front four. That is a crazy
and
front
and
four.
and they have Lucas Torreira as well. They have
Yeah,
really good.
they
They
have
have
a good
really
team.
good players. Yeah.
They're a dark
Um.
horse for sure in terms of making noise.
Yeah. So I think I like that because I think you picked Galatasaray to come out,
I
right?
did pick them, but I'm
So
I'm starting
you
to
need that.
I need yeah, and then your last one.
Um. Hmm. My last one is Chelsea. Um. Unai Emery avenges. I think they're gonna get smacked because I don't think the way Aston Villa has been playing is so. Oh my goodness,
They're very very
they're
good.
they're flying up and down, and I don't think they have an answer. Especially their defense sucks, their midfield sucks, and they can't score. Nico Jackson missed another tap in last week,
I
and it's just
know, and Sterling had the shot from like very, very close that like almost went for a throw. What in the
yeah,
world is going on at that club? Is so like something stinks there. I don't know what's going on, man. They need to
it's
figure it
Bole,
out.
it's Bowley, whatever his name is, it's him.
He spent 1 billion. What do you want him to do?
He spent 1 billion with no plan. He said,
Yeah,
"I'm gonna just buy whoever
buy
I think will be
youngsters.
good. Buy
XYZ
youngsters."
has potential. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this is football. Do you know how many youngsters don't work out? Oh my
I mean,
goodness,
he's trying to
it's
apply like a baseball strategy where he's just like prospect farming. Like that does not work.
it worked for him with the Dodgers,
I
I
mean, yeah,
believe.
there's
So
no
like
triple A and double A in football. You
exactly,
cannot just farm prospects and then cash in on them and trade them for stars. Like that's not the way this game works.
exactly,
But
exactly. That's the Chelsea's not Chelsea. I think when we made our predictions, I said they should be around the top four,
I said
but
third. I
yeah.
put them over Liverpool, man. Do you know how crazy that is?
Well, you thought,
I should be ashamed of myself.
man, it happens. Yeah, Chelsea's not a good team. There
Um,
and there's no. I will continue to preach. They're a young team, all that stuff, but they're playing one game a week at this moment right now, and there's no time for development. You got to start winning games, and that's what Pochettino's prioritizing. And I think in the long term, that's hurting him.
yeah,
So you have nothing to play for at least this year. Might as well just get these guys the reps they need, and he's not doing that.
fair
Mudrik,
enough.
I think they started Mudrik last week, and he was terrible. But you have to let him play through those. So what can you do?
2 games this weekend. The game you just talked about, Aston Villa, Chelsea, and United, Burnley. I think one of those teams, United or Chelsea, lose. I have United in this twice. Can you believe that? This is insane. Like
The agenda. They really insulted your goat that badly.
I cannot. There's a guy there I don't like, but no, I'm not. In all seriousness, I just look
Yeah.
at. I'm surprised they didn't put anything Arsenal Tottenham. I looked and I couldn't really think of anything for that game. But I think either Burnley or Villa take like all 3 points. I think it'll be Villa to be fair. I think United do handle business this weekend, in all seriousness.
I'm
But
I'm I'm still
I
a,
can
I'm
see
still a
it.
believer. I'm still a believer in the company project. So I would not be shocked if this is the start of like uh the season going better than it is right now for Burnley. But it'll be tough. Man, United are desperate at the moment, and they're fighting for their lives.
Yeah,
So
they are.
actually they don't do that on the pitch, but Ten Hag's
This is
fighting for
as
his
big of
life.
a must win as you can get this early in the season because once it gets to those games
Yeah,
that I
they've
was talking
they've
about,
they've
oof,
they've conceded 3 goals in 3 games for the first time since like 1978. So this is unprecedented territory they're in right now.
wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
so yeah, so I don't, I don't, man, this
Man, you
is
could make
this is
a
what
real
a
argument for them that they should have no 0 wins. They should have drew Wolves in the first week, and then they had the 2-0 comeback versus Forest. Like it's been bad every game.
yeah, man, what a good time to be an Arsenal fan. That's all I have to say.
This whole season is what a time to be alive. But
Exactly.
another episode in the books, man. 13 done, 14 next week.
Inshallah, yes, sir.
Inshallah. But I mean, as always, bro, pleasure. This is this season we're cooking.
Yeah, as consistent as it gets, bro.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes.
so we got to keep at it, inshallah.
Inshallah. But thank you guys as always for listening. Pleasure. And you guys take care of yourselves.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yallah.